If you are one of those people that has an incredible vision for your life, you want to change the world, you have a mission, you have something, that you feel really passionate about, and you want to make an impact in the world, you want to have a life with meaning, you want to go to the next level. And maybe it's not that you're stuck, but you kind of feel that there's another level you can go to and you just don't know what that is. Or maybe you created a lot of outer success and feel as though something is missing inside. Well, this is a perfect opportunity to think about how you're creating your life. Most people create their life, and most self-help out there and coaching is about building up the ego. It's about making that cognitive thoughts and feelings more conscious, and you're maybe changing your thoughts or making your negative feelings positive, or building up an image of yourself that's more powerful and amazing so you can do amazing things. Or maybe it's changing behavior and going out there and being motivated to make those changes. And those are all great. But after a certain point, you're just building up more ego. And the ego is really this sense of I, and it faces outward. It doesn't look inward. It doesn't look at the unconscious. It just focuses on what's showing up in the world. And then it also sees you as separate from the world. So it doesn't see projection. It doesn't see that things that are showing up are actually reflections of your own mind. And so you're kind of just caught up in this building this ego. And after a certain point, there's not much else you can do. Now, what we do in Jungian psychology and bringing it into a coaching model is we help individuals transcend that ego. And how does that work? Well, I'm going to give you a metaphor that may help. Imagine this ocean, this grand ocean. Look at the Pacific Ocean. It's huge, right? And imagine that on that ocean, in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, there's a little tiny boat. And that little tiny boat has a little person on it, and they have their little sails, and it's just a one-person boat. And imagine that is your ego, this conscious personality that can only see the surface. And imagine that no matter how motivated that person is or how positive they think, by moving the sails or maybe changing direction, some people say keeping boundaries or setting goals, it doesn't matter, because that person is in a precarious position because the ocean is much more powerful. The ocean's currents, storms that come in that are out of that little person's control, and all they can do is navigate with the sails. And, some of us, when we are just frustrated with all the storms in our life, just give up and we lay back down in that boat and we just let it carry us to wherever we want to go. Or other people, they struggle and stress to try to navigate, but they end up getting caught in the current and getting the same results. So that's sort of an ego-focused personal growth, not a real big transformation. Now, imagine that you are able to go underneath, to see the current, see the what is driving those external storms. Imagine you can do that. And it's not about changing the current and again, trying to manipulate the unconscious. It's about understanding that you are the one who's creating the storm. You are the currents. You are the storms and the sunshine. And so what we want to do with Jungian psychology is that we have a personal unconscious, which is just the very surface. Imagine that you spilled some oil, which we don't like, on the ocean, and that colorful oil slick that's like sitting on top of the ocean, that is your ego, the personal unconscious, and the ego is just kind of navigating around that. But underneath that, in Jung's psychology, he has the term the collective unconscious. And the collective unconscious is this collection, this universal force, power that some people call the divine. Some people call this collective universal intelligence. And truthfully, that is who you are. You're not that little person in the boat. You're not in this precarious position to wait for the world to agree with your plans and to fight the storms. You are actually the ocean. And so the process of individuation is realizing you're not that tiny ego, and it's going to, still act up and get afraid when the storm comes. But if you are the ocean, you know that you cannot be destroyed, that you can actually turn the currents. You can actually get wisdom from maybe the obstacles that are showing up to understand the depth of who you are. So instead of struggling on the surface, instead of trying to think positive and working on limiting beliefs and having a better self-concept, a persona on the surface, imagine that you can have access to that universal divine wisdom that you were born with, that this part of yourself that the ego wants you to stay away from, because it knows that once you get this inner power, once you access this inner wisdom, that the ego's gig is up, the ego is no longer in control. And an amazing thing happens when you realize you're not the ego, is that it becomes the birth of your true personality, this true you that is able to direct their life and outside of old patterns. So just wanted to share this with you because it is an incredible way to look at your own personal growth. And for years, I did the same thing. I built my ego. I was reprogramming my brain to think positive and build up my confidence. What I was really doing is building more shadow and not accepting the parts of myself that weren't this shiny persona. And what it ended up happening is I kept getting the things I feared thrown back at me in my life. And I never felt I was ever getting anywhere. And so with individuation, we start with shadow work. We start to look at what we're pushing away, where we're not in our complete power. And just that beginning of shadow work starts to let you understand and have a direct experience that the world is reflecting your mind. The world isn't out there trying to, go against you. You're not at whims to the storms of life, and you can actually have true power in your life and direct your destiny. So if you do have that big vision, if you do have that incredible desire to change something in the world, the best way you can do that is through doing your own individuation. So if you are just beginning your journey, or if you've been, making multi-million-dollar business, you still need to do the inner work, because after a while, that little boat, it gets precarious to manage. And the more ego you build, the less power you have over your long-term destiny.